The flickering light of the television danced across Emma's face. She was sprawled out on the couch, bathed in the soft glow of her phone. Her fingers scrolled aimlessly through social media. It was a typical Friday night in her modest but cozy apartment. Outside, the city hummed with a distant energy, but inside it was just Emma and the comforting silence. The only sound was the gentle whirring of the refrigerator in the otherwise still apartment. The sharp ring of the landline pierced the quiet. Emma jolted upright, her heart pounding in her chest. She stared at the phone, a wave of confusion washing over her. Who would be calling on the landline at this hour? It had been years since she had received a call on it, let alone at night. A shiver ran down her spine as she hesitated, her finger hovering over the phone's button. Curiosity outweighed her apprehension, and with a deep breath, Emma reached for the phone. "Hello?" she answered, her voice trembling slightly. Silence met her greeting. There was no response, just the faint hum of the telephone line. "Hello? Who is this?" Emma repeated, her voice gaining a touch of firmness. Still nothing. Just as she was about to hang up, a faint click echoed through the receiver. It was followed by a soft, raspy voice, barely a whisper. "I see you." The line went dead. But deep down, a seed of unease had been planted. Minutes ticked by, each one stretching into an eternity. The silence of the apartment, once comforting, now felt heavy with unspoken threat. Emma's eyes darted around the room, searching for any sign of an intruder. Her mind raced, trying to rationalize the call, but the chilling words, "I see you," echoed in her mind. The phone rang again. Emma jumped, her entire body tensing. She stared at the phone, her pulse quickening. The insistent ringing seemed to mock her fear. This time, she didn't hesitate. She snatched up the receiver, her voice sharp with panic. "Who is this?" Once again, only silence greeted her. Then the same raspy voice, closer this time, whispered, "Don't you recognize my voice, Emma?" Before Emma could respond, the line went dead. She slammed the phone down, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. As she stared at the phone, her own phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text message flashed across the screen. It was a message from an unknown number. "Look behind you," it read simply. Emma spun around, her eyes wide with terror, her blood turning to ice. The apartment was empty. Panic surged through Emma. This was no longer a prank. Someone was watching her, toying with her. She had to get out of the apartment. She grabbed her phone and her keys, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold them. She fumbled with the lock on the door, her heart hammering in her chest. The phone rang again, the shrill sound echoing through the apartment. Emma ignored it. She had to get out. Now! Just as she managed to unlock the door, a voice boomed from behind her. "Going somewhere, Emma!" Emma whirled around to face her attacker, her eyes wide with terror. But the apartment was empty. Had she imagined the voice? Had the fear been playing tricks on her mind? For a moment she allowed herself a glimmer of hope. Maybe it was all in her head. Maybe she was just stressed and sleep-deprived, her mind playing tricks on her. But the hope was fleeting. It vanished the moment she saw it, a single white rose lying on her coffee table. It hadn't been there before. Someone was definitely inside her apartment. Fear lent Emma a surge of adrenaline. She knew she couldn't stay here cowering. She needed to arm herself. She scanned the room and spotted the fruit bowl on the counter. Inside, nestled among the apples and oranges, was a large sharp knife. With a surge of desperate courage, Emma grabbed the knife, her hand gripping the handle tightly. Knife in hand, she felt a surge of false security. She was no longer a helpless victim. She would defend herself. She crept through the apartment, her senses on high alert, listening for any sound, any movement. The sound of her own breathing filled her ears. Each creak of the floorboards, every rustle of curtains sent shivers down her spine. As she reached her bedroom door, she heard it. a soft, almost inaudible whimper coming from inside. It was a sound that sent a chill straight to her core. Emma took a deep breath and slowly pushed the bedroom door open, the knife held out in front of her. The room was dark, the only light coming from the streetlights filtering in through the blinds. But in the darkness she could make out a figure sitting on her bed, their back to her. "Who's there?" Emma's voice was a shaky whisper, barely audible. The figure didn't move. Emma took a step closer, her heart pounding against her ribs. "I said, who's there?" she repeated, her voice gaining a touch of the steel she felt from the knife. The figure slowly turned, and Emma's blood ran cold. It was her. Or at least it looked like her. The figure had her build, her hair, even wore clothes that looked eerily similar to the ones Emma had worn that very day. The figure reached a hand up and slowly began to pull back the hair that was covering its face. Emma's breath hitched in her throat. Terror, pure and primal, rooted her to the spot. She wanted to scream, to run, but her body refused to obey. She was frozen, trapped in a nightmare. The figure paused, its face inches from Emma's. "Boo!" the figure finally whispered in Emma's ear, its voice a raspy echo of her own. Emma screamed.